SNOWTRAX is sponsored by Ski-Doo Snowmobiles, Yamaha, revs your heart, MBRP Performance Exhaust, built for the victory lap, and by iPone Lubricants, exclusively distributed by Parts Canada.
So we're in beautiful Revelstoke, British Columbia. Day one of our trip. It's first boys trip ever of going away and trying the sled country that Dad always likes. So put your seatbelts on. Actually, first stop was we gotta get diesel.
So a few years ago, AJ and I came out here to Revelstoke, British Columbia, and rode with Yamaha's factory snow bike racer, Brock Hoyer, who was the guy who won the first ever X Games snow bike cross race. And that was our first introduction to snow bikes, and we had an absolute blast, loved it. It's been too many years since I've hung out with Brock, and we decided this year that with COVID restrictions easing a little bit, we'd come back out here and ride in the mountains again. Except this time we're switching things up a bit. When we were here the first time, he had just had his son, Deacon. Now, Deacon's a little ripper and has his very own Snow Scoot 200 that he rips up in the mountains with, believe it or not. So today we're gonna go out, we're gonna ride with Brock and Deacon and check out how the father and son duo does this and up in the mountains.
Yeah, when I had kids, I never pushed it on them. They just always seen Dad ride, and slowly, if they wanted to make that decision and want to ride with me, I have two sons. I have a 7-year-old and 5-year-old, and my 7-year-old Deacon loves coming with me. Loves anything motorsports, comes out in the shop. But then I have a 5-year-old Asher that could care less about a motor. You know, he'd rather slide and color, and that's fine. I've never pushed it on my kids. Deacon first started sledding. My oldest, he started out on a 120. And now he's up to a 200, and now I'm already looking at getting him a 400 Venom. You know, so it's, for me, it's like stepping levels and the perfect stepping levels. There's no gaps. It's like the perfect transition. As soon as he's too big for the 200, 400 fits him perfect. As soon as he's too big for the 400, he's pretty much ready for an 800. Yamaha's done amazing things. I'd like to have a mountain market that's a full line with no big gaps. Lots of leading industry companies have these gaps, and Yamaha has closed them all. When I come out and ride, I want to go do big jumps. And that's like, I go down, I can sleep at night because I'm like, yeah, I felt accomplished. Seeing him progress and to come out and watch him ride and do similar stuff, get a foot of air, I'm like, that's cool. Like, that's totally worth the drive out here to come ride Boulder.
That's a good high mark.
You did the wiggle.
Man, he's a good little rider.
You should see the GoPro video in there, it's gonna be funny.
Oh yeah.
He just took his own trail. I'm like, he's going for creek drainage. He got stuck, made it a bit wiggle, stuck. I pulled him down and he like took fresh trail all the way down. It's like, holy. He still surprises me.
He understands momentum. He can see he's got to keep moving all the time, and he doesn't slow down.
Yeah. He still forgets once in a while, like he doesn't commit to stuff, but he generally gets the hang of it.
You said he's almost 7?
He's 7, just turned 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're up here, we're riding with your dad, right? What do you like about riding snowmobiles?
I like it because it's fun. You can rip around and have some fun.
Yeah. Do you hit jumps sometimes?
Yep, sometimes.
Now, I was watching you ride out there, and you seem to be able to go in the deep snow.
Yeah.
So who did you learn that from?
My dad.
He taught you, right? How come he knows how? Where did he learn it from?
Whenever he would run the deep snow,
Yeah.
I would follow him, and sometimes he makes lines for me, and then I mess up and then I get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I learned it from him, so now I know how to flip around in the deep snow.
I even saw you put both feet on one side and side jump. Are you practicing that? Is that new?
Kind of.
Yeah. Do you want to ride bigger snowmobile when you get older?
Yeah.
Cool. So do you think that your snowmobile, your snow scoot, is teaching you lessons so when you get on a bigger snowmobile, you'll be an even better rider then?
Mm.
So you think it's important to have bigger snowmobiles as you get older, right? Yeah. Yamaha is the only one who can really do that, aren't they? So it's a good thing your dad works with Yamaha, right? So he can get you all the perfect sleds.
SNOWTRAX is sponsored by Hercules Tire. Ride on our strength.
I got into motorsports, of course, any kid, right? You see your friends or older people have dirt bikes and you just want one. I had an uncle that was a professional dirt bike rider. He just said, you know what, it's a good thing, just start them out on something small. I kind of just was a trail rider, just your normal kid, backyard riding. My first YZ80 race bike, Yamaha, to our first local race. It was about an hour drive and I podiumed. The rest is history. I was hooked. I think motorsports sculpted who I am. You know, I loved it so much, I put every nickel and dime I had into it. I knew I had to do good in school to ride my dirt bike, so I did better in school so I could ride my dirt bike. And as I got older, I definitely had some path choices like we all do when we're teenagers of right and left and which way we're gonna go in directions, if it's gonna be big trucks and girls or motorsports and broke. And I chose motorsports and broke and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't do it over again ever. Now to be at the age I'm at and have my kid out with me, definitely stressful. Because I'm always thinking about him. You know, I don't want him to hit a hole or hit a tree, but he's pretty good, so I gotta let him have some room to learn. And to watch him pick up certain stuff, and I'm like, where'd you even learn that from? Like him side saddling and kicking with his dominant leg. I'm just like, pro stuff, like how? So to see him each ride gain some confidence and become better in moto and sledding, that alone is a win. I started out on a Yamaha, you know, now being a father and a backcountry enthusiast, they make all the versions for sleds too for him from when he's literally can just walk to when he's a full-grown adult. So for me, I don't like having other stuff in my shop. Everything in my shop's either gray or blue, and that's all Yamaha. I think the biggest thing is showing my kid the right proper steps and being safe in the backcountry is number one. And it's so important to, for one, show them proper, but also and show them what we have and to keep the riding areas we have open. And this is God's country. Like, it doesn't get any beautifuler than this. Every time I come up here, I'm just like, I pinch myself because it's just unreal. It's beautiful. And honestly, some people will never see this in their life. I'm blessed enough that I get to come up here daily and see this. So, you know, it's definitely stuff you don't want to take for granted because it can catch up and pinch you in the butt. It's honestly showing them the safe ways, and the next generation is our kids to inherit this and love it and to pass on the things we've learned over the years as we've gotten older and as equipment gets better, and for them to share with their kids and so on and so forth. Well, that was a great day.
Well, you didn't need more.
Wow. Like.
Trail Tech is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
Where I live and ride, it's pretty standard fare for people to buy a performance trail sled and use that sled for kind of a more high-mile performance touring style of riding. Now, most folks don't want a big bulky 4-stroke or a touring sled with all of that saddlebag strapped on, so usually customizing is the way to get what you want. And in particular today, I'm talking about the 2022 Polaris Indy VR1 850. It's a 137, so it has the right length for a higher mile sled, but the VR1 package is really only one step down from an XCR, so you're not talking about a saddlebagger here. The truth is, we can quickly and easily transform the sled and get the best of both worlds without sacrificing the aggressive nature of this sled's DNA. And I truly believe this is what the majority of folks buying sleds like this are looking for these days. Ultimate performance with some higher mile touring comforts and zero compromises. And what really makes a high miler? It used to be touring sleds were super bulky and laden down with all kinds of storage, but that's just not the case nowadays. Really, all we're looking for when it comes to big miles is durability, ease of use, and some creature comforts. And while some folks will want a lot of storage, there's a lot of options out there for you. But with folks that we ride with, they want to take a day's worth of stuff, put on 250 to 350 miles, and then go out and do it all over again tomorrow. And the included storage space on the Matrix is more than adequate for that. Now let's speak to durability. While all new sleds truly are very durable, the reality is when you're putting on thousands and thousands of miles per season, you're bound to find some situations that are going to put to test not just you, but also your sled. Right up front, I'm opting for the Sentry skid plate from Polaris. It's designed for the Matrix, it goes on easy and adds the strength of UHMW plastic without adding much weight at all. And it'll take a serious beating without damaging your stock belly plastics. Now going hand in hand with that skid plate is also the Polaris Sentry front bumper. It's been engineered to fit your Polaris Matrix just like the skid plate, and it increases the strength and front end coverage should you ever need it. You can accent or you can color match to your sled and it looks great. Out back, we're using the Sentry bumper in the rear version. It's still the same color match design and it's all aluminum. It'll help stiffen the rear tunnel should you be adding overnight carry capacity to the rear tunnel of your Matrix, and like the front bumper, it also looks great. Now in the creature comforts department, there's always those accessories that make your ride that much more enjoyable, but typically aren't found on performance sleds. First things first, a bigger windshield, but not just any windshield, the Polaris adjustable windshield, which allows you to have the good looks of a mid windshield with the benefits of a tall. With just one hand, you can reach forwards, pull up, and get an extra 4 inches of vertical coverage with wind protection that's going to keep you in control. And speaking of control, I like having a tether on my sled. Always have, always will. And the Polaris magnetic tether is a simple plug-and-play system that makes having a tether really easy and gives you the safety of knowing that if you do get separated from your sled, it's gonna shut off. Now, adding a little bit of style to your sled doesn't always hurt either. And if you know me, you know that I like to add just a couple of finishing touches. And what I had in mind is really strictly just for style. The color match blue grille inserts look good. They add that slight bit of style to the front end and will help to separate your sled from the rest. You can get the grille inserts in 6 different colors to match your Matrix, and they go on really easy. With all of these parts installed, it's the feel of the sled out on the trail that's the most important. While many of the parts we installed we hope to never have to use the benefits of, like the skid plate, the bumpers, and the tether, you can right away notice the benefits of the adjustable windshield that's going to give you huge protection from the cold. And when you're trying to put on 250 to 350 miles per day, exploring what Mother Nature has to offer, having quality parts that are engineered to fit your Polaris sled and increase your comfort just builds your confidence and helps you to focus on what's important, the trails ahead.
SNOWTRAX has been sponsored by Polaris, think outside. Yamaha, revs your heart. The regions of Quebec by the sea. Discover our ride ideas. FXR Racing, maximum versatility for all conditions. And by Arctic Cat Snowmobiles.
As I'm sure you can imagine, doing what I do for a living affords me the opportunity to ride all of the best sleds season after season. And every year I find sleds that I really like and really enjoy riding and prefer to ride. But I wouldn't say it's frequent that I find a sled I will say that I love. But this season, 2022, The Lynx RAVE RE, this is a sled that I absolutely love to ride. This is probably the most playful sled I have ever ridden. By playful, I mean it does what I want it to do, whether it's cornering, getting the skis light, wheeling, hitting jumps, any kind of riding scenario I get myself into, this sled can do. I did a test ride on this sled last year that was far more technical. This season, I don't want to do a test ride like that. I want to do something different. I simply want to describe for you guys what it's like to ride the Rave and why I think it works so good. Now, we've talked before about how this RAVE RE is not entirely like Skidoo Renegade. They are very, very different vehicles, but there are a lot of differences between these two sleds that make them feel very different to ride. Both the biggest one and the smallest one are suspension, and that's very confusing, but let me explain. Up front, you have what is essentially an RASX front end. It's the same parts. The only difference is that the spindle says Lynx. It is the RASX front end. So that section of the sled itself is identical to a Skidoo. The skis are different. We'll talk about that later. But what is the most different? Obviously, you just got to look at a picture and you can notice it, is the PPS3 rear suspension. PPS3 is an uncoupled rear suspension, and it is absolutely phenomenal at soaking up huge bumps.
I think the thing that impresses me most about this Lynx is how through the big bumps it doesn't get out of shape. And I mean, I'm just cruising right now, checking out this section, but I rode this section earlier, basically full throttle, and this trail isn't even really groomed right now. And you can hit these bumps as hard as you want, and it doesn't throw the back end around, it just stays perfectly straight. Even when the rear end does bottom hard, it just kicks it straight forward. It doesn't throw it off to the side, and that's very confidence inspiring.
I have these KYB Pro 46 Kashima coated shocks, which are absolutely stellar. I have them set up now with the low speed compression, 4 clicks from full soft, and the high speed compression, 1.5 turns from full soft. The rebound is set to 4 clicks from full open. So that's how I've set up the front shocks, and I have found that this setup works excellent in almost every condition. So let's talk about the rear skid now. This PPS3 rear skid is uncoupled, meaning it will weight transfer like crazy. When you hit the throttle, this sled will wheelie if you want it to. In the bumps, when you want to go through big bumps, you can lift the front end up with the throttle and ride through bumps on the skid frame, no problem. You can put your feet further back on the running boards, get the front end light, and just let the skid soak up the bumps as you're pounding through them, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Am I the kind of rider who pounds massive bumps every day? I'm not. When they're there, I'm not afraid to hit them fast, and I enjoy doing that. If there's a jump on the trail, I'm going to hit it. But I also enjoy smooth trails, and I do search for groomed trails, so maybe I'm getting older, I don't know. Last season I said it was too stiff, and I got a lot of flack for that. Do I still think that? It actually rides pretty good. My opinions on that have actually changed. I've come to terms with it. I like it. It's not as smooth as like an XRS, say, set up full soft. It's not that smooth, but it works good. But there are people who want to ride hard on Saturday with their buddies and then Sunday afternoon go out for a ride with the family. And this sled is difficult to do both of those things with and have it set up perfect for both. Is the compromise worth it? In my opinion, yes, because of what I said in the beginning about how playful this sled is. That's the change in my opinion. That's what I've come to terms with. So next thing I want to talk about is handling. I raved about the handling of this vehicle last season, and my opinions on that have not changed one tiny bit. This thing handles amazing. This is the best handling DRP product on the snow right now. I'm not afraid to say it. I don't care if that upsets people. It is the absolute truth. But why? Why is it like that? These Blade XT skis, I think, play a pretty large role in how it handles, though I don't think they're the entire story. I don't think that's the whole deal. They are a great ski, but the question I've been asked a million times is, if you put those on a Skidoo, would it all of a sudden handle just like a Rave? And I think the answer is no. I think part of what makes this sled handle really, really good is the skis, but I think the other part is a combination of PPS3 rear suspension and the ergonomics package, and those are two things that are drastically different than a Skidoo. PPS3, as I said, is uncoupled, which means it weight transfers like crazy. That obviously plays into the skis light style of riding that you might want to try or do, or that might be your preference. I don't feel when I'm sitting forward on the sled like the skis want to lift. They stay on the snow. Where you sit on the sled, how far forward you can get, backwards you can get, this position of the handlebars, forward and back, height-wise, these are all things that play into making this sled super comfortable to ride hard and ride aggressively and move around on.
I mean, just sitting here, I'm capable of moving my body to both sides without actually moving back to clear the tank area. And when you're in the corners, it allows you to hang off the side and then hit the throttle and wheelie out of the corner, which is something you can't do on all sleds. Combine that with the awesome weight transfer, and you can actually, it's almost like a dirt bike, wheelie it out of the corners. It feels so good.
I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I think that right now, this is the most playful sled on the snow. This sled does everything I want it to do, and it does it in a way that gives me confidence and I'm comfortable. Historically, over the past few years, we've been bashed for being biased towards Polaris. Well, this just proves the point that that was never the case. We've never been biased to any manufacturer in particular. We're biased to best sleds, sleds that work the best and are the most fun to ride. And this sled is every bit as fun, if not more, than any of its competition. And I would absolutely spend my money on this. I'd be happy to ride it all day. I mean, obviously you've got an 850 E-Tech under the hood, which is a motor we're all very familiar with and works great, is reliable. This is the kind of sled for somebody who wants to have fun. But do you want to take that fun to the next level? Then this is the sled you should be on.